Hi, folks. Thank you all for joining. I think most of you know me. I'm Jeffrey Dweck. I want to thank the SCA and the SCA board for putting this entire magnificent day together. Really incredible. How many hours of learning and how many different teachers and classes have been going on. Everything will be recorded so that if you miss something, you can go and hear it. So really, chazak baruch to the SCA and the SCA board. You guys are really phenomenal and working so hard to spread Torah and prepare everybody for Pesach in these dire circumstances. I want to thank you also for giving me the privilege and the opportunity to share some thoughts with you guys tonight. Again, pre-Pesach. Tonight's learning, the whole day's learning, is dedicated, first of all, in honor of all of the nurses and doctors and first responders and everyone who's been on the front lines of helping the country and the city combat the coronavirus, and for the full refuah of all of those suffering in any way because of the current crisis, including Shlomo Ben Shoshana. So please, let's keep that in mind and let's all pray for a speedy recovery for anybody suffering and for a quick end to this crisis. Our doctors also remind us in the community to continue practicing social distancing. You can't overestimate how important it is and how much it's done to help the community. So with no further ado, with your permission, let's get started. We're going to talk a little bit of Halacha tonight. All right, so let me pull up a slideshow for you guys and take you through some learning. And again, thank you all for joining. We're going to talk about one of the halachot of the Pesach Seder. But before we get into that, I would love for you guys, let me just, to think for a second about the differences between the Sephardi and the Ashkenazi Haggadah or the Seder. Think about it for a second. If you want, you could even put some ideas in the chat. I'm not going to announce them all, but just chat them all. I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to do that if you'd like. And we'll use that as a springboard to kick off the class. Differences between a Sephardi and an Ashkenazi Seder Pesach. And if you want bonus points, focus on the Haggadah itself. All right, go ahead. Go put something up in the chat if you'd like. And let's exchange ideas, and then I'll tell you some thoughts I have. Well, and then we'll go through what I think most of them are. All right, and I may not see your questions. Actually, I'll see your chat if it pops up. So if you have questions, you could throw them into the chat group, or we'll try to save some time for later. If I'm speaking too quickly, forgive me. It's what I do. I'll try to keep everything clear and cogent. And I'll tell you when you need to pay attention. So for those of you just joining, we just got started. We're listing out in the chat box the differences between a Sephardi and an Ashkenazi Seder. You got about 10 more seconds to do that, and then I'm going to take you through my list. All right, here we go. You know what? Let me get you started. What are the differences? First of all, the plate itself, the Seder plate, has different symbolic foods. That's fine. Eating lamb meat, since the destruction of the Second Temple, Ashkenazim do not eat any lamb meat on the night of the Seder. Sephardim permit it in some cases. Reclining, Ashkenazi women never did reclining. Sephardi women do, as far as I know. The Haggadah, this is really great. The Haggadah really has few differences because of how old it is and it's time tested. There really are very little differences, and that is a testament to how the nature of the work itself. But there are differences nonetheless in the text. Towards the end, you have a lot of flexibility and more variety among different Sephardi communities. The four questions are in a different order in both the Ashkenazi and the Sephardi Sedarim. Somebody said that. We do the Mish'arotam. We act out, and some other communities have different ways of acting out or bopping kids on the head with the matzah to act out the obligation to see yourself as having been in bondage and then freed. There's one halachic difference that really sticks out. The major difference is that Sephardim, I think you all know, only say a beracha on the first and third cups of wine, that is the kiddush and the berchat hamazon cups. We don't say one after the magid, the gal yisrael beracha. We don't say borei pei gefen, and we don't say one after the hallel at the very end of the seder. That's the halacha that I want to focus on tonight, because it's really kind of crazy. So again, the main difference between an Ashkenazi and a Sephardi Seder in terms of halacha is this debate, and it's an old debate. I'm going to take you back to the Rishonim, to the year 1000, the debate between 2 and 4 berachot on borei pei gefen, on whether each cup of wine deserves its own beracha. All right. So when do we say them? I said after kiddush, after the magid, after berchat hamazon. And by the way, in a regular Shabbat, you have cups 1 and 3 anyway, and then after the hallel at the end of the seder. All right. The reasoning, in general terms, we'll examine this a little bit later. But according to Sephardim, there's no diversion of concentration. There's no hesech hada'at. You're thinking about the second cup when you make the first beracha. You're thinking about the fourth cup when you make the third beracha, so you don't have to say it again. And so therefore it's not considered an interruption, in part because in the first case, you're allowed to keep drinking throughout the time the second cup is in front of you. And in the case of the third and fourth cups, because the Hallel cup is poured and is sitting there in front of you right after you say the Birchat Hamazon and eat and drink that wine, again, no hesech hada'at. That's the reason why we only have 2 berachot. I want to take a little diversion into why we even have 4 cups to begin with. Think for a minute. I'll give you 10 seconds. Why the 4 cups in general? It's in the Gemara. In the Talmud, it explains the reasoning behind drinking so much wine on the night of the Seder. You go back to Pesachim on page 117. Basically, the Mishnah says there's a minimum of 4 cups of wine for someone observing the Seder night on Pesach. Men, women, and children, everybody is obligated to drink 4 cups of wine. The rabbis explain that the main reason is because 4 cups symbolizes freedom. So far, so good? Can I get some thumbs up? All right. So we have 4 cups of wine at the Seder. The Gemara says it's for freedom. I want to take you through the poskim now. I'm going to take you on a tour of a lot of the Rishonim. Here's my caveat. It's going to get a little boring. Not boring, but a little monotonous. So I don't want you to, worry if I'm going to go through these very fast. I want you to see a pattern, and I will summarize that pattern at the end. So if it gets a little dry for the next, say, 4 or 5 minutes, bear with me. I just want to take you through most of the opinions. Okay, the Geonim. The Geonim, of course, are the bridge between the Gemara period, the Talmud, and what we know of today as modern Halacha, the Rishonim and the Aharonim. We're going to focus tonight on the Rishonim, but I do want to tell you that almost every single one of the Geonim that's documented on the issue says you have to make a beracha on all 4 cups of wine. And I'll get to the reasoning after. There's one, Rav Kohen Tzedek of Surah. These are Babylonian Hachamim, of course. These are the last of the Babylonians before Halacha kind of moves to Spain. Rav Kohen Tzedek is alleged to have differed and said only 2, but if you go deep into the subject, there could be an issue with the manuscript or the teshuvah that people are reading that's attributed to him. But I think that with this list of names you have, there's an overwhelming majority straight out of the Savoraim period into the Geonim in favor of 4 berachot and 1 b'nei gefen. So far, so good? Good. I'm going backwards, sorry. The Geonim, of course, were the heads of the Babylonian academies of Suram B'Bedita. They kind of handled halacha for the better part of 450 years. They were the spiritual leaders of the community. You had the Resh Galuta in Islamic lands that handled more secular authority. But the Geonim were it. The first of the Rishonim I want to talk about is the Rif. The Rif is Rav Yitzhak Alfasi. He was born in 1013 in Algeria. He lived in Fez most of his life. He says, like the Geonim, you need 4 cups. Now, who was the Rif? He actually lived at the end of the Geonic period. He was 25 and the less of the Geonim passed away. He's considered an early, if not the first, Rishon. At 75 years old, he left Fez and went to the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal. He built a yeshiva in Lucena, and he had students like Rabbi Yosef ibn Migash and the famous Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. Clearly an authority, and you can say he bridged the gap between the Geonim and the Rishonim. He really is unique in that respect and has an authentic tradition, in my opinion. He wrote a book called Sefer HaHalachot, which is really one of the first codified halacha works. An amazing figure. There's no doubt, he says, 4 berachot. So far, so good? Good. I want to take you to France for a second. They all say 4 berachot. There's one or 2 exceptions, which we'll go through very quickly. But I want you to see a pattern. I'm going to skip later to the Rashba, and he says that in France, he got the tradition that you should only say beracha on the first and third cup. But when you look at the literature in northern France and Ashkenazi lands, all of these people say 4 berachot. So I think we can all agree that maybe we've seen 2 references to 2 berachot, but all the Geonim, the Rif himself, who's one of the 3 great pillars of halacha that Shulchan Aruch ruled or based his halachot on, his Shulchan Aruch on, and then you have all of these Ashkenazim who maintain the tradition until today of saying 4 berachot. There is in the south of France, where you have a little bit more of a Sephardi influence, one Chacham Daraza, Rabbeinu Zerachia Halevi, in the 1100s, who wrote a teshuvah saying that, I think, a Halacha, saying that you should say two berachot. Everyone else in Provence, in the south of France, including a book called Sefer HaMinhag from 1155, I'm sorry, it was actually written in the late 12th century, say four berachot. All right. Daraza has an interesting story. We're not going to have too much time to get into it, but basically he was born in Spain and he moved just to the south of France when he was a child, and he studied under two different figures that had actually two different influences. One was looking to keep Provence traditions against the influence of what was happening in Spain, and we're going to get more into that in a little while. Now let's go to the second great pillar of Halacha, Harambam. Harambam, of course, lived in the 12th century, and he wrote the Mishneh Torah. The Rambam is very unambiguous on this subject. The Rambam agrees with the Geonim and the Rif, and he says, in no uncertain terms, you say a beracha on all 4 cups of wine. Hopefully by now you see where the class is going. The class is going like, I don't know where we got to 2 cups if already there's an amazing preponderance of opinions in favor of saying a beracha on all 4 cups of wine. Let's talk about what his reasoning is, because I want you to understand why we say the berachot in general and what the debate is, the underlying debate is about. He explains what the berachot are: 1 for kiddush, 1 for the Haggadah, 1 for berachat hamazon, and 1 for the Hallel. And you may drink between the first and second cups. Between the third and fourth, you may not drink. All right, that's the halacha in Chot Chametz and Matzah in Harambam. What is Harambam? The Rambam is a code, right? That was, by the way, I want to show you, I mentioned the Rif before, and he had students like Ibn Migash and Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. Migash's student was the father of Harambam. So you have a direct tradition from the Rif to Harambam. Hopefully that's clear and give you a little bit of context and perspective. So I think you all know what the Mishneh Torah is and what Harambam was trying to do in the Mishneh Torah. He was really trying to summarize all of Talmudic law as informed by the Geonim into a code that was as comprehensive as it could be. And it really was supposed to be a one-stop shop for halacha. And he got into a lot of trouble for it. The main reason he got into trouble for it is because you had a society where the Chachamim kind of owned the world of halacha and legislated. And here, the common man who they feared didn't have enough of a background, had access. And access is a dangerous thing when you give it to ordinary people. Let me just do a quick time check. Okay, 7:13. Good. Okay, so that's Harambam. Harambam says 4 berachot. What's the reasoning of Harambam? So let's go back to the Gemara. Gemara says, why do you have to drink 4 cups of wine in the first place? Wine symbolizes freedom. Slaves don't drink wine. Free people drink wine. So the Gemara is going to mandate that, the Talmud is going to mandate that we drink 4 cups of wine to express our freedom. I think I told you that before, and that's main reason number 1 for wine in general during the Seder, and so much of it. And you could read it in the Halacha in Chot Chametz and Matzah, where he says in every generation someone is obligated to show himself as if he just left slavery in Egypt. And in that context, he said you have to drink, male and female must drink 4 cups of wine. So he definitely equates it with freedom. The Tosafot mention that there's another reason. Not only is it something to do with freedom in general, but you have different recitals in the Seder. You have a Kiddush, you have a Haggadah, you have a Berchat HaMazon, and you have a Hallel. Just like with Kiddush and Havdalah and other liturgical readings, it's respectful to surround these readings or mitzvot in themselves with a cup of wine. So that's what the Tosafot and the Mishnah Berurah add, that most of the berachot that the Chachamim ordained were ordained to be said over a cup of wine, because that's how you honor and respect and praise Borei Olam, and how you praise or show respect to the mitzvah itself. So now you have 2 reasons. 4 cups of wine shows freedom, and we're expressing ourselves as free, and it also shows respect to each of the parts of the Seder. I think those are both wonderful reasons, and plenty enough justification for saying 4 berachot, because we do it on Kiddush and Havdalah ordinarily on a Friday. And other readings that have to do with a mitzvah or a time or sanctification. We have our wine, and it's It's to accompany the particular mitzvah. And indeed, the Talmud, if you read it closely, does seem to kind of mesh the two ideas together and give a hybrid. The 4 cups that are ordained symbolize liberty, and we should perform a mitzvah with each and every one of them. So yes, you have to drink 4 cups because that's how we show ourselves to be free, but not with any rhyme or reason, but we should do a mitzvah, pertaining to the night along with each cup. And this Talmudic hybrid is also implied by Harambam, who does say you have to show yourself that you're free, but then also says in Hilchot Chametz U'Matzah 7:10 that the where do you drink the cups? You drink them together with the mitzvot, with the obligations of the night. Okay, now you have a Chacham called Rabbeinu Yonah. He's really the first, other than the 2 other opinions I mentioned before, which were questionable, one of the Geonim in the Razah, who says 2 berachot. Is really the first time this idea of saying a beracha on the first and third beracha comes up in a Sephardic writing. And he, of course, is writing this in the beginning of the 13th century. He's a teacher of the Rashba. All of these are Spanish Rishonim. All right? So that's Rabbeinu Yonah. And again, I told you before, by the way, if this gets a little thick, going through all the Chachamim, the timeline, I'm going to summarize it for you very shortly. I just want you to get an idea of the differing opinions and how they stack up against each other. Now we come to the linchpin, or the pivot, what I call in the class title, the detour in Halacha. The Rosh. The Rosh is Rabbeinu Asher ben Yechiel. You're going to have to remember his name for the duration of the class. He lived from 1250 to 1327. And he, in his Teshuvah Piskei HaRosh, on the right side of your screen, he records a position of the Rif, who said 4 berachot, and he says, La nihira li ma she'evira aya mishum dechol kad v'chad mitzvah be'anfei nafsheh. He's responding that he doesn't quite understand the proofs that you need to say 4 berachot because each one is a mitzvah in itself, and he gives his reasoning there. His reasoning is, there, like I said before, there is no hesech hadat, and you can't say a beracha on food if you've just said it before without an interruption in between. So that kind of, to the Rosh, that trumps. So the Rosh, of course, is one of the 3 pillars of Halacha upon which the Shulchan Aruch is based. The Rif, the Rambam, who say 4 berachot. The Rosh, who now comes in with only Rabbeinu Yonah and the Rashba saying 2 berachot. The Rashba is his contemporary, but we'll talk about it. I want to go back to the Gemara for just a second, because this is what the Rif was basing his reasoning on. The Rosh, I'm sorry. The Rosh, you should know, and I'll get into this in a second, is a Talmudist. He believed, like many yeshivot today in Judaism, that the Talmud is, constitutes the 4 corners of Halacha, and we don't go outside to philosophy and to logic or Aristotelian thinking. So the Rosh based his reasoning on the Gemara. I'm not going to ask you to read the whole Gemara, but I want you to just see that it is kind of long. It's a discussion in Pesachim, and it talks about this idea of Hesech Hadat. If I'm eating at someone's house and I said a Berachah Kiddush, I say another one, Berachat Hamazon, I didn't know he was going to bring me a cup of wine. He brings me a cup of wine. You get the picture. And there's a whole discussion over, not saying another beracha of hagefen if you're given a second cup of wine at a meal. If you look all the way at the bottom at this blue writing here, I tried to kind of summarize it. The Gemara says this is not so. There, and this is in the Berachat Hamazon scenario, where one is preparing himself to recite Berachat Hamazon, he is already uprooting his mind from drinking. Meaning, once you're preparing for Berachat Hamazon, you need to say that second Berachat Hamazon in an ordinary meal, and certainly in the Pesach Seder, because you have Hesech Hadat. You ate your meal and you forgot about Berachat Hamazon in some way. Here, and this is a different situation on a holiday that comes after Shabbat, we have that Yak Nahaz Kiddush. Here, with regard to Kiddush and Havdalah, he has not uprooted his mind from drinking, so you're going to say 1 beracha. If you don't understand the Talmud, we can go into it. If it were a longer class, we'd go into it in more detail. The reasoning behind, or how the Rosh argues his teshuvah. It's a long teshuvah, and the Gemara is certainly long on the basis of it. But I want you to understand that the Rosh's reasoning comes from this idea of Hesech Hadat, and it comes from the Gemara. Now, the Tur is the son of the Rosh, who instituted the 4, columns of Halacha, the Orach Yoredea, Choshe Mishpat, and Even Ha'ezet. and he presents all the opinions, and the truth pretty much summarizes his father's halacha. And he writes that the Rif and the Geonim before him do mandate that you say Bor Priya Gefen, and mentions all of the Geonim here, Naturanai, Rav Amram, and he mentions Harambam. He says, but my father, it didn't sit well with him to say Bor Priya Gefen, except for the first and third cups. I'm going down now. He mentions more Geonim, Rav Sherira, Rav Ha'e Gaon, Kadvan, Shetzarich Lebarech, Lifnei Kol Achad, that you have to say Baruch on all of them. So the Torah faithfully documents his father's opinion. Contemporary of the Rosh. Again, if you're not following the specifics, don't worry, I will summarize it for you in a little while. Is the Rashba. The Rashba was in Spain, and he was the preeminent authority in Spain towards the end of the 1200s. No question, he was it. He didn't have the staying power, I guess, as the Rif and the Rosh, but he was the authority in Spain. He learned from Rabbeinu Yonah, who we said before, and Ramban. Both Ramban considered the Rashba to be a phenomenal student, and the Rashba said we make a blessing on the first and third cup. I told you much earlier that he kind of attributes that to the Chachamim of Tzorfat, of France, and his teacher Rabbeinu Yonah. The Rashba had this opinion, but it wasn't until the Rosh moved to Spain from Germany and partnered with the Rashba that it actually became the law in Sephardi land in Spain. I will have you all saying 2 berachot and that's it. So let's talk about the Rashba and what his background is. We'll make it very quick. He was well versed in philosophy and science. He grew up in Spain. He was involved in business and then left business to study. And he wrote plenty of teshuvot, 1,000 teshuvot across Sephardi and Ashkenazi lands. He believed, of course, in the literal meaning of the Torah. A lot of people at the time were trying to allegorize the Torah, and it was considered in bad taste. But he was against a lot of influences at that time. And as you all know, and this is key to the night, Harambam endured, and after Harambam, a major controversy, which we call today the anti-Maimonidean controversy, where people were not interested in having the lay people study Halacha from his book without a knowledge in Talmud, and people were not interested in democratizing Halacha, and they certainly were not interested in all the philosophy, mostly Aristotelian philosophy and thinking and logic and sciences, and including natural sciences that Harambam brought to bear in Halacha. It's a major movement, and one conclusion I'm going to have at the end of this class is that movement is alive and well today. There's always going to be a push and pull between Ramban and Harambam and his supporters, and that's always, as far as I can tell, for the near future, going to be a push and a pull in Halacha. Let me move on, basically, but the Rashba basically endorsed a world-famous ban saying that students under 25 years old could not study Greek, the Greek sciences. You could study astronomy, you could study medicine, you could only study physics and philosophy. That was a big taboo philosophy after 25 years old. If you want to study Harambam's Moreh Nebuchim, you could do that, but only once you're an adult. So, you know, the Rashba was already embroiled, probably because of Ramban and his teachers, in kind of an anti-Harambam, bent, and indeed joined the fight. He was a little more moderate than other people who were anti-Maimonidean, and he, I think, brokered a compromise. So the ban that I just described to you is actually a compromise, softened kind of ban. So what happens now to the Halacha? Sefer HaChinuch is a student of Harashba. He says first and third beracha, the Ritba, Tzorah HaChaim, all of them agree. All the students of Harashba in Spain say first and third beracha only. We lost the tradition of 4 berachot. There's a contemporary of both Harashba and the Rosh called the Ra'ah, Rabbi Haromen Yosef HaLevi, who also says 2 berachot. And because of those 3 kind of teaming up together, with the Rosh kind of being the most influential, they really made Halacha in Spain to be those 2 berachot. That survives among the students of the Rosh as well, like Menachem Ben Zerah. There is one Sephardi, by the way, I have to mention this, in Seville in the 1300s, Sefer Abu Darham, a phenomenal work on tefillot and customs. He is the only latter Sephardi authority that documents that you should be saying on all 4 cups, because that's what the Geonim said. And I have the Teshuvah if you want it. It's easy to find. But I think he's going to be the exception that proves the going normative halacha afterwards. And then, of course, once you get to the 1500s, we have 4 berachot among Ashkenazim, but the Sephardim don't retain that. And indeed, Rav Yosef Karo, the codifier of the Shulchan Aruch in his Beit Yosef, says the opinion of the Rif. He says the opinion, I believe, I don't even know if he mentions Harambam, and he says that the Rosh differs with the Rif's 4 berachot opinion and says 2 berachot only. And he is going to go halacha with the Rosh and say normative. He's not deciding halacha, but he's documenting what the normative minhag, in the words of Joe Moseri. Thank you for that, Joey. What the normative halacha at the time was. By the time you get to 1500s, the Rosh's position from a couple of hundred years before that was rock solid, and he had managed to change the thinking. So that's the Beit Yosef written earlier in Rav Yosef Karo's life. Shulchan Aruch, which is a little more abridged and its own code, as opposed to being a commentary on the Tur, says, don't make a beracha after the 2nd cup, don't make a beracha after the 4th cup. The Rama on that says, we say on all 4 cups, because that's what the Geonim did. Sounds like the Abu Darham. And it's funny because the Sephardim now are doing what the Rosh told them to do, which is, he is Ashkenazi, he was born in Germany, and Ashkenazim were doing what the Geonim and the early Sephardim, like the Rif and the Rambam, were posek. All right. I want to talk about Shulchan Aruch. You all know what it is. It's a codification of halacha. Now, you all know, I think I mentioned this before, that there are 3 pillars upon which he kind of weighs the halacha when he gives it. He follows the Rif, the Rosh, and Harambam. And in his introduction to his work, Rav Yosef Karo says, Maran says, where there's a majority, I go with the majority. You should know, by the way, Chacham Atlu B'Bari in our community, Alav Shalom, always sided with Harambam, even against the Shulchan Aruch. And in one case, he was right, because he found a manuscript about one of the Tefillot with Santi Shabbat from before Shulchan Aruch was even written, and whatever, he had the right minhag. Anyway, not relevant for this class. Why do I tell you about the 3 pillars? Do you notice anything? He usually goes with the majority when the Chachamim disagree. He goes with all 3 of them, but when they disagree, he goes with the 2 out of 3. We have 3 more minutes. I want to try to wrap this up. Here, he goes with the minority opinion, not the majority. So when I look at the Haggadah, and I look at the Berachot, and I look at the Geonim, and I look at all the opinions and say, how did we get here? Why are we only saying 2 Borei Peri HaGefens when we should be saying 4? Right? If you haven't been listening to now, this is the key question I have. Why, by the year 15-something, does the normative halacha become 2 Berachot? So that's the summary we have for now. I want to show you a graphic summary. Pay attention. This is all, people on the left have 4 berachot, people on the right have 2 berachot. So you see and anyone in blue is one of the 3 pillars leading up to Shulchan Aruch, right? So you have the Geonim, 4 berachot, the Rif, Harambam, 4 berachot, and a lot of the Ashkenazim in northern France, 4 berachot. One holdout in Spain decides 4 berachot, and of course today the normative halachat Ashkenazim, as documented by the Rama, 4 berachot. Once the Rosh comes to town, taking the opinion of Rabbeinu Yonah, one other South France opinion, he takes his contemporaries and his students, and the halacha becomes 2 berachot. Do you see what I want to show you with this chart is, a nice heavy weight earlier with the Geonim and pre-1200 for 4 berachot, and then now everything changes on this side, like a diagonal over here. Is that good? Can everyone give me a thumbs up on this chart? I worked hard on this one. I'm kidding. I just think a visual helps. So if you weren't paying attention about all those poskim, this is what I wanted you to see. Now we have to get to the why and how, and I have a minute to do it. Everybody ready for the speed round? Here we go. Let me just take a quick look at the chat box. Okay, so far so good. It's only Joe Moseri breathing down my neck again. Busek, I love you. Joe's going to be happy. You're on the sources list at the end of this. Oh, by the way, let me give you a quick caveat before we try to wrap this up. These thoughts are never my own. They're assembled from a bunch of articles, and I want to take you through those sources later. I'm going to give you a quick slide to show you where I got my material from. I wish I could think of all this myself, but usually it's used article or some studies I've read. All right, I want to show something very quickly. One of Joey Moseri's favorite books is Keter Shem Tov. This is an encyclopedic work of the minhagim of all the Sephardim, period. They were published in the early 1900s by Rabbi Shem Tov Gagin. It's a phenomenal work, and it really documents a lot of the minhagim. This is already in 30, and he says, I don't understand why Maran Bet Yosef forsakes the words of all the early Rishonim, and he means the Rif and Harambam, and the Abu Darham, and the Geonim, and rules in favor of two berachot. So even in 1900, someone actually had the sense to wake up and say, wait a minute, this shouldn't be. You don't see much of this, but and I didn't see anything written before Chacham Shem Tov Gagin, and I was happy to see it in his work where he really brings this issue to the surface. And by the way, not only was it the Rishonim and the Geonim and the Abu Darham, but we've checked manuscripts. You could look at old manuscripts in Spain, Spanish illuminated Haggadot, and the ones that survived, and there is evidence that you should be saying a beracha on all four, not two. So it's interesting that in 1900, this was being not criticized, but wondered out loud. The answer, or one of the answers, lies in who was the Rosh when he came to Spain. So he was born in 1250. He was a student of a Tosafist. It's a whole different discussion, but this is a Talmud center learning base. He was raised in the Rhineland in Germany. He studied under Rav Meir of Rothenburg in the 1200s, Ashkenazi. Because of persecutions, he left Germany, went to Spain in 1304, and he got to the home and was hosted by the Rashba. Because of the Rashba's involvement already in the Rambam conflicts, the Rosh was immediately pulled in, and he actually spurned the edict that the Rashba would author. And both of them feared that Harambam's influence and Spanish culture and the philosophy and the sciences were interfering or were giving the Talmud a back seat. He became head of a Beit Din at the Rashba's recommendation in Toledo, Spain, and became the posek in Ashkenazim and then also in North African Jewry. So he really became the recognized leader, kind of bridging both Ashkenazim and Sephardim. And he was prolific. He wrote over 1,000 teshuvot and a commentary on many of the Masechtot of the Gemara. And Rav Yosef Karo kind of much later testifies that the Rosh's halachot in Spain became normative halacha. He did not like the Spanish approach to Torah learning. It had too much value on philosophy and other secular studies. He said he felt it was watering down the Talmud, and he would be considered an anti-Maimonidean by all measures. And I believe our halacha in question today has a tint of that long-standing debate. And many of the customs that survive today in the Sephardic repertoire are influenced by Talmudists who felt that Harambam and the Spanish Golden Age thinkers, and I could name phenomenal thinkers in Arabic-speaking Chachamim and people that were in Islamic Spain and later Christian Spain that did phenomenal work that a lot of these Chachamim, in my opinion, felt was actually watering down authentic Talmud study. But eventually the Rosh would come and supplant Harambam on certain minhagim. Other ones the Rosh kind of left alone where he felt that people had, too much of an attachment to a halacha. But you should know, these are just quotes by later Chachamim in their teshuvot that say the Rosh his halachot became normative halacha for Sephardim. So the bottom line is that in our case, the number of berachot to be made on Borei Pei Gefen, on the wine, his position resulted in a change in permanent halacha. His contemporaries, the Ra'an, the Rashba, adopted it, and that became halacha. Now, that's kind of the end of the talk, but and that's the rated PG part. I want to spend, if I have like 4 minutes, if you need to go, I understand, I'm sorry, but I want to spend 4 minutes on kind of like the rated PG-13, NC-17 stuff. Rabbi Faur wrote an article many years ago, and in it, he called Teshuvot of the Rosh for some remarks and dicta that kind of put a light on who the Rosh was and what he felt in 1306 when he was kind of legislating in Toledo, how he did. In one Teshuvah, he says, how do these people follow his words, meaning Harambam, over the Mishnah? Tafah Ruchan, which some people believe is like, damned those who came to rule according to the books of the Gedolim, but they don't know Mishnah and Gemara. They're studying Rambam, thinking they know the Mishnah and the Gemara, but they don't understand it, so they make mistakes. So he wasn't thrilled with how the Rambam was enabling this. Another teshuvah about Rambam. He did not do like other authors who brought evidence for their words and showed the places where their words came from, right? He wrote his book as a prophet of God. Over here he writes, without reason, without proof, and the reader thinks he knows what he's getting, but since he doesn't know Gemara, he's going to make mistakes in halacha. Really kind of emotional writing, and Rabbi Four writes this in his article. Of course, he does it supercharged with emotion, as he always is. And it appears that the Rosh kind of is very critical of Harambam. Another teshuvah, he kind of tells you a little bit about himself. The Rosh definitely felt that he was qualified to be a legislator. He felt that he wrote in one of his teshuvah, thank God, as long as I live, there's still going to be the law in Israel. I'm going to bring back the Mishnah and the Gemara to these, failing Sephardim. Science and philosophy, they think it's all, chokhmah, but indeed it's watering down the true law. I can give you these quotes of the article that the Rabbi Four cites them in later, but the point is, the Rosh was a phenomenal posek that actually did manage to bridge himself over Ashkenazi and Sephardi lands and to become normative halacha in so many ways. But he came from a different mindset. He studied under Rabbeinu Meir. He felt that he himself was, super powerful. He criticized other chachamim that were appointed by the king, even though he was appointed by the king. But as if to undermine their authority, thinking that he had, the authority vested in him, and Harambam was playing games and watering down the Gemara. He said, I possess all that pertains to true reasoning. Thank God. Haneni Elohim. Yeshli, we call it Sevar HaAmiti, the true reading of the Torah, as good as anyone else in Spain. When he came to Spain, I guess he was self-conscious. He goes, I'm just as good as all of them. Even though I don't know your secular knowledge, God saved me from it. B'rich Rachmana, thank God, I was saved from all the chokhmah chitzonit, the external knowledge. So he's self-proclaimed not interested in philosophy and the sciences. I want to give you my concluding thoughts, and I want to thank you in advance for listening. Number one, the Rishonim were tremendous and prolific scholars. They bridged the period of the Geonim to the Rishonim and modern halacha that we know today. Halacha is fluid. That's my pun of the night for the 4 cups. Its development is not black and white. Cultures mix, rabbis move, communities tolerate all kinds of influence and allow changes to be made. The Rosh most definitely did have an agenda in Spain. It appears that there's always been a push and pull between Talmud-driven, Tosafist mode of learning, which features a lot of pilpul and casuistic reasoning, a search back to the Gemara like the Rosh did. And a second approach is the Harambam's approach, where we embrace philosophy and science, we embrace rationale and practicality, and chokhmah chitzonit, the wisdom around us, with some limitations, of course, to help formulate those opinions and do what's right or legislate for our people. Halacha, of course, is a word that means to move in a certain path, and a chacham has that power to choose that path, says Rabbi Four. The development of our particular halacha on the 4 cups may well represent an example of such a struggle. We say 2 berachot, I think we should say 4. I'm not here to posek halacha, but you see history kind of reared itself and changed halacha with these influences. In any case, it does take a tremendous scholar to be a posek, like the Rosh was in both communities. I don't know if he did us a service or not. These are my sources. Take a look, take a screenshot, or email me, and I'll be happy to share them with you. I want to thank all of you for joining. I welcome you to ask questions in the chat box. If you look, by the way, on the bottom here, Joey Moseri has a beautiful Haggadah class, and I did consult him before giving this particular talk. And I think I'm going to log off before he has a chance to criticize me. I have a famous joke. I'll leave you with this. What do you do right after you ask Joey Moseri a question? You duck? I'm kidding. Anyway, these are the sources. I enjoyed reading this article, and that's what gave me the idea from Marvin Heller to give this talk. And I want to wish everybody a safe and healthy Pesach. I want to wish everybody an enriching Pesach. Despite being alone with your family, I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of think of people more vulnerable out there, and then also to enjoy the intimate company of our family. Thank you all. If you have any questions, email me. I'll put my email into the chat, or ask the SCA. I think they know where to find me. Otherwise, I do want to thank you all for your time. I want to wish you a Chag Kasher V'Sameach, an enriching Seder. And when you get to the berachot of the 4 cups of wine, you'll know a little bit of the history of how we got here. Alamound. Any questions, by the way, we can unmute you guys and you could ask away, but I really want you all to join the other. Oh, by the way, there's a Google Doc. I can share that link for you. That's good. Good point, Eddie Falk. Thank you for that. Let me get a link for all you guys, and I'll make it an open sharing document, and you could spread the gospel. But I do want to unmute everybody. Michael, can you unmute and allow everybody to just say goodbye and wish everyone a happy Pesach.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Good job,
Hi.
Jeffrey.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you guys for being here. Hi, Eddie. Hi, Jack.
Nice-
Hi,
nice
Alan.
surprise,
Joe.
Good job, Jeff.
Joe, bro,
Jeffrey,
you in
thank you.
Israel or America? Hey, Harold.
How you doing?
Ari, the PT is here.
Excellent
Nice surprise,
presentation.
Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you guys for joining.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Morning,
Other classes have started already at 7:30, so it's already 7:40, so you better go join. Go to scapesach.org. Hi, Mr. Harari. Hi, Valerie.
You floored me,
Hi,
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
You floored me.
Very nice, Jeffrey.
And to my immediate family, all 4 dozen of you, thank you for joining and bringing up
Thank
the
you,
numbers.
Jeffrey,
Jeffrey.
great job.
Where's
Thank you,
Alan?
guys. Hi,
Very
Abby.
nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.